tell me when. You're all set. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to open this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Howard.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could do a brief moment of reflection on things that are happening around the world today. Thank you.
Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Ms. Burton, Mr. Doré, Ms. Green, Mr. Howard, Mr. Lamar, here. Mr. Levenstein, here. Ms. Mineo,
Here.
Mr. Stridiron, here. Mr. Walker.
We're going to call on our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Manning Campbell.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So, Ms. Mineo, I presented last week a full report, and I understand that one of the trustees has a question.
Mr. Lamar, can I call on you?
I was hoping for a report on the the protocols in place for the sporting events, like the night of the incident on the 31st or 30th. A report on what happened that night and what the follow-up has been.
Madam President, I'm unsure of the question that Mr. Lamar is asking.
Good. Mr. Stridiron, can you help us?
Was there a written report provided to you from the head of security outlining what the pre-shooting plan was for the football game?
Madam President, could you ask Mr. Stridiron to be a little bit more specific? Because I did present a whole plan the last week that we were here, so I'm not sure what exactly he's asking for.
Prior to the shooting last month, was there a written plan of where the security perimeter would be for a large event such as a football game at NFA?
I'm going to try to rephrase. I'm going to try to help. So you're asking if there was an actual written plan in writing. Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, large organizations usually have written security plans for large events so that they know where to position security personnel before the event, during the event, and immediately after the event. Has that plan been provided in writing at any point to the superintendent?
Dr. Manning Campbell.
So, yes, we do have a detailed security plan that's provided to the administration that is created with the school district and law enforcement. We do.
So you have a plan that was before the shooting, and now you've updated that plan based on the events of the night at the football game? Has that written plan been revised?
Dr. Manning Campbell.
Madam President, I gave a full presentation last week about the changes, the updates to the plan. So I'm unclear as to what the specific direct question is.
Can the board see a written plan that was before the event and now the new updated plan that the superintendent says she has in writing so that we can see? It could be a map that shows the positioning of, there were numerous security officials at the event. Where were they supposed to be? Where were they actually at the time of the shooting? Maybe they were all in the right place, but maybe the plan was faulty. We don't know. How can we say we have everything handled properly if we can't show that the plan was either faulty or just not executed properly.
Dr. Manning Campbell?
Madam President, is Mr. Stridian asking for us to share our security plan with the public?
I think there are certain things that need to be known as far as, was there a written plan? Because the board has never seen a written plan. The board has never seen a written response. The board has never seen a map showing where everybody was at the time of the shooting. The board has never seen the plan of the new outline of where the security perimeter was. The statement from the district said that the event happened outside the security perimeter. Why was the security perimeter not extended beyond where the people who attended the event were? Shouldn't the security perimeter be where the people are, not inside the fence? Once the people leave the event, shouldn't they feel secure on the property? So what I'm asking as a board member is there a written plan that the board can see that shows what the security perimeter was and the plan was before the event and how it's changed since that time?
Dr. Manning Campbell, can we ask Ms. Shaw, is that a protocol that is allowed to be shared because it's a safety, whether it should be, I don't understand, what the legality of that is.
Thank you, Ms. Mineo. So the details underlying the safety plan would not be something appropriate for disclosure in public in open meeting. It would fall under the executive session reason matters which imperil public safety if disclosed. So even if it were to be discussed or disseminated, it would have to be in the executive session, and we need to take great care with matters of public safety.
Do you have a comment, Mr. Stringer?
This has been almost a month, and the board still hasn't seen anything in executive session. So I know more from the news clippings than from information from the school board. So
can you help me? What kind of information would you like to hear? Because I'm at a loss at this point.
just like anybody who'd want to go to a large event, you'd want to know that there was a plan, that if apparently the security perimeter needed to be bigger than it was, and now the new plan is going to include security perimeter that extends to, and then you should let the public know that the security perimeter is going to extend beyond the fences of the ball field. I think that's not a confidential information. I think the public should know that when they step onto school grounds, that there is going to be a security person there to ensure that they're being secure.
I can give a specific example. I was sitting in the parking lot facing the building, 2 slots in, on the innermost position on the front, looking straight down Rose Street, down towards the garage when it all happened. There was no security on Row, where they normally are when students are being dropped off, right there. And at prior games, I know that there have been. And I don't know if that was a failure on the part of whoever was supposed to be there, or if it was a change on the part of the administration, or I don't know. But I know there was no one there on that side, at least visible down the Rose Street line. Could they have been around the corner? Yes, but they're not where they normally were. I don't know if we were short-staffed, and as a result, they made changes. I don't know. In the last meeting we had, you spoke of how many, employees we had on, in place. They're present at the thing. You can't use teachers. You can't call teachers security. They don't have the authority to do anything. They can't, those numbers, that doesn't count. When you throw the number of teachers present at the event into the representation by you know, to make people feel safer. That's not reality.
Does anybody else have any comments? Yes, Mr. Dury.
I have a comment. Listed on the faculty or the listing of personnel in the district is somebody who's in charge of this, emergency planning, emergency response. It's a name, it's never come up in these meetings, and we're putting somebody on the spot, but somebody has the job to answer these questions. So in an executive session or however that looks, you know, are we allowed to have that person there and simply say, you know, where's the plan? Did you work the plan? And make that person is responsible. I understand ultimately you're responsible. You're the top. But it's been delegated to somebody who specifically has this job. Can we talk to that person and see if the job was done? It seems we're dancing around this, but we don't have to dance. It's just one person.
And I believe that's a different question. Your question is, was the plan done? But you're not asking the next part of the question, which other people have asked, and that is, how are you going to expand it? And to me, that is giving the bad guys the keys to the kingdom and letting them know where the perimeter is going to be the next time. I mean, that's my opinion.
Understood, but not if we went to an executive session, which we don't have to do tonight. The person I'm talking about is not here. But
I agree with you. I agree with you because you said you stopped right before that. You said you want to know if the plan was in place and how it worked or didn't work.
a fair
Exactly.
question.
So that to me is a very clear idea of what we can do in the next executive session. We'll get the Director of Safety and Security to come, and that will be the topic, and that'll be what he'll talk to us about.
If you want something more specific, I've got one for you. You don't have to tell me which ones are not, if they are indeed not, but if you walk around NFA right now and you see the cameras up around the building, can you tell me that they are all in working order and were in working order that evening?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Shaw?
Thank you, Ms. Mineo. For the same reason that we wouldn't want to discuss the details of our security plan in public, we wouldn't want to disclose in public to the extent that there were any cameras that may not be in operational order right now. It is a safety and security concern. What I would want to know is that the head of security is ensuring that if there are any broken cameras, that they are being fixed, and a report to that nature could be shared in executive session, but this should not be discussed in open meeting.
So since you can't say that they were all working, it means that perhaps some weren't.
I don't think Ms. Shaw can answer that question because she's not our Director of Security. I don't think that's a fair question to ask.
Where is he?
Dr. Manning Campbell?
Not here.
Sir, please. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Stradire.
I find it quite sad that 3 people were shot on school property, and we are elected officials that are in charge of making decisions about staffing, and we don't know whether or not we were short-staffed. We don't know what happened. And I think that it's pretty apparent what's happening here. We're just asking questions because we want to know. We want to be informed. And there are a lot of people that went through a lot that night. I wasn't there, so I can't say I went through anything other than the fact that I've heard a lot. And for the reaction, there was some good reaction and was some bad reaction. We just want to know that the next time we have an event, that the people that come to the event know that they're going to be safe and that we have a plan in place that's going to be effective. We don't want people to say, hey, these people were hanging around the building when they shouldn't have been. We just want some answers, and that's pretty much why I believe this meeting was called, to get some answers, and apparently we're not going to get it tonight.
Dr. Manning Campbell.
So thank you for that. So I read a pretty lengthy statement during the last meeting, and much of what you're asking, I've already responded to. So tonight's meeting, I was not really clear, and I'm still unclear as to what you're asking. You're asking for a specific safety plan in terms of who was there and where they was positioned. I'm not able to do that. I provided information publicly in terms of what I could not provide. Yes, we had an incident on school grounds. It was traumatic. It was chaotic. I have provided a response, and we've made adjustments, which was part of my response that night. So I'm really unsure of exactly what you're asking me.
I'm going to try to help. I'm going to try to distill this, okay? I have a couple of things, 3 things. 1, was there a plan and did it work? That's your question. 2, were we short-staffed? That's one of the things that Darren asked. And 3, has it been revised? Not what is it revised to, but has it been revised? So those are the 3 issues that I got from what each of you were saying. Is there anything else that I can try to distill out of that? Go ahead.
Well, I think the board should know what it was revised to.
Revised to? I don't agree with, I don't agree.
The
but
board shouldn't know what the plan was revised to?
Ms. Shaw, help us out here.
To the extent that the board could be advised, it would be in executive session. And to the extent that there are any concerns about confidentiality disclosures out of executive session, that might be a reason to give pause, to give full details, even to the board. But nevertheless, it is appropriate for executive session and only executive session, not open meeting.
So the last question I'll put, what was it revised to with parameters? Okay, up to what we can know. All right? What else? Yes.
I would also like, along with all the others that I was hoping for, I think it was July 5th, we had a meeting, and I've been waiting for the job descriptions of the administration of downtown employees for all that time, and I keep getting...
But that has nothing to do with this
I don't
topic.
know what the security officer's job duties are. I don't know what the head of security's job duties are. How can we as a board determine whether or not someone is executing their duties effectively if we don't even know what their duties are?
Okay. I think we have to be careful when we do that, so that, because we're not an evaluative board. That is not our job, to evaluate staff. Our job is to evaluate the superintendent, who then has the job to evaluate staff.
Observation of those things that we would then pass on to the superintendent, I think is relevant.
Mr. Stratton, you had your hand up for something?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. Mr. Howard, you had your hand up.
Thank you,
before. I
Madam President.
apologize.
So I'm a little confused and conflicted. I'm trying to figure out what we're trying to ask here when it's been stated that there's certain things that can only be discussed in executive session. And then when you ask for the individual who would answer those questions is not here, but then to ask if they're here, that's a little confusing also. But someone made a question about what is the proper placing of individuals. We as lay people, I'm not a security professional, so I couldn't tell you what that was. I don't think nobody up here could tell us what that was when that question was asked. But I do know that at our last meeting, the superintendent gave a report on what happened that evening, what was in place that evening, what happened after that evening, and what we were doing going forward in regards to improving or doing things differently, and the rest of it having conversations with local police authority. And also, we need to be cognitive and understanding that this is an open police investigation. So when we ask these questions publicly, we could be stepping in turf that we shouldn't be stepping in. So some of those questions are specifically should be asked in executive session, and to be requesting that in open meeting, I think is a little bit inappropriate. But like I said, the questions that were asked, I believe they were asked and answered in the superintendent's report at the last meeting. I know I went over it and I read it myself. And it talked about, like I said, that evening, what was in place that evening. I think people trying to cast aspersions of trying to say, were we properly manned? Were we properly in a proper place? So I have a question to that person. What is the proper place for a shooting that you don't know will happen? I'm confused.
In terms of my comment about the location of those security officers, it was merely an observation of the fact that they were not in the location that I have seen them there previously at games. So there was a difference, and I was wondering why that difference was.
Okay. Anybody else, any more comments, any more questions? Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting, please. Roll call.
Mr. Doré? Yes. Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Lamar? Yes. Mr. Levinstein? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron? Yes. Mr. Walker?
Thank you and have a nice evening.